I grew up in Houston, Texas, in a small neighborhood called Brayburn, right next to Bel Air. It's in between the richest part, one of the richest parts of Houston, and one of the poorest parts. That definitely had an impact on how I kind of saw the world as a kid. It led me to being pretty insecure. I think most people are pretty insecure, but because of the money factor as well as just how I looked. I had red hair. I was teased a lot as a kid, bullied a lot as a kid, but I kind of hid all that insecurity and covered it up by my loud and extroverted behavior. I tried to be the coolest kid around, coolest kid in town. I tried to hang out with all the cool kids and all the pretty girls. And I always never quite fit in per se, but I think that's a pretty normal childhood experience. I feel like most kids grow up insecure. At that time, I felt like I was the only insecure one. No one was talking about it or anything like that. My home life was pretty good. I played baseball, I played soccer, I played basketball. I had pretty much every opportunity as a kid that one could ask for. I had gripes and complaints, but I was a kid. I didn't really know how good I really had it until I didn't have anything at all. I had a little brother. He also happened to grow up to be a drug addict. I had an older half brother, also grew up to be an alcoholic, so it kind of ran in my family. It was kind of a secret taboo thing that we had in our family. There was this closeted alcoholism and drug addiction that got put to the side when we all got together. This family member would be intoxicated, this family member would be intoxicated. No one talked about it. We didn't open up about it. No one shared about it. It was just this little secret that I wasn't really let into until I was about 10 or 12 years old. At the center of it all, I guess there was always Houston, and there was always my roots are there, and that's where I learned to run and play. So I got introduced to drugs and alcohol and that whole lifestyle when I was about 12 or 13. I happened to go to a middle school that all the younger girls were all dating these high school guys, and there was this big influx of Xanax and weed brought in by these high school guys, as well as alcohol, things like that. Other pills got kind of thrown around. And I can remember seeing these young girls all messed up on pills and going, you know what, I'm never gonna be like that. But push came to shove, and I had to fit in, I had to feel cool, I had to feel a part of. There was this deep insecurity within me, and I ventured into that world. So how it all kind of got started was just basically, I want to have a good time, I want to feel involved. I'm going to take a couple bars, I'm going to take a couple Xanax, I'm going to start smoking a little bit of weed, and I did it very slowly. I wanted to ease into it. I did it solo a couple times because I didn't want to act a fool, I didn't want to be ridiculous like some of the people that I saw. So I was cautious about the whole thing. Like, I tried to be pragmatic as a kid and smart, but drugs are a little bit more powerful than, at least for me, than my brain. And so I quickly, got involved in that world. It didn't become an everyday thing until much, much later on, but I definitely tasted the, I guess, the poison for the first time when I was about 12 or 13. So when I was about 16 years old, the first murder occurred that I guess my friend group was involved in or around. One of my buddies in high school got shot in the back of the head over one pill in a park one night. Just dead. I think the next one was a drunk driving accident. Our friend was decapitated. And I think the next one was a murder out by a train track. I never caught the guys, but as kids, we didn't really know how to handle that or process that. And I didn't really know how to show up for my friends or anything like that. And what I can remember is just all of us mourning through excessive drug use. Growing up in Houston, promethazine with codeine or drank or syrup or whatever you want to call it, that became a big part of our lifestyle, as well as Xanax, hydrocodones, Lorcets, lots of pills were getting introduced. Cocaine was in the mix at that time too. Alcohol, of course, weed, it was all there. What I didn't know is that became the first of, I think the total is 44 deaths in my life that I know, either through murder, suicide, overdose, a couple natural causes. But I always tell people that from my childhood, I have now more dead friends than living ones from who I grew up with. One of the more impactful moments in my life, I would say, is My dad died of a heart attack when I was 19, and he died in front of us. I remember being very confused on why my cousin was handling it. Like, why? And that became a question later on. It's something that I resented my mom greatly for. It was like, why aren't you telling me? You know, and I wasn't taking into consideration, of course, what she was going through. But I got to the hospital and I watched my dad die in front of me. And it's probably one of the hardest moments of my life, is to, see the person who's supposed to tell you he's proud of you and, be there when you go to college graduation, and who's, coached you through baseball and, been your guy, just slowly fade out. But how I learned how to cope through my own teaching, not through any teaching of anyone else, was have one more. Just have one more, have one more, have one more. And once I started, I didn't really have the ability to really regulate how much I was going to take. At the time in Houston, pain clinics were everywhere. You could buy 120 Lorcets, 90 Xanax, and 120 Somas, which is a muscle relaxer, for $100. And getting $100 from your family wasn't really too difficult, or mowing a couple lawns, or stealing it, whatever it really took. My parents are pretty aware. They'd caught me with, weed and some pills from time to time. But I think because I did okay in school and I was playing baseball, that, you know what? It might have just been easier to turn a blind eye. As long as I wasn't failing massively, that maybe it was just a phase or something like that. But, a couple of our parents knew we were up to no good, and as long as we did it inside their own house, they did not care. And some of them even joined in, and some of them even sold us some stuff. So it was pretty easy to get away with. I had my own car, 1987 Honda Accord. It was beautiful, that I could ride around with and buy drugs in and use in. And then I could say, hey, I'm going to so-and-so's house to study, or we're gonna go practice, or we're going to the movies, and then just come in at night and pass right out. It wasn't really very difficult. It didn't really start getting darker and more noticeable until I turned about 18. That's when I started to really go off the deep end and venture into other drugs that, other people didn't really have access to. Oxycontin at the time was $80 a pill. My tolerance at the time was 2 pills per shot. So that's $160 a day that I was spending on Oxycontin. Heroin is much, much, much cheaper. So if I have the connection, I have the resources, I can do about 20 bucks worth of heroin and be good for a couple hours, as opposed to the 160. So obviously heroin is the more economical choice, is kind of what I said. So day in, day out, what I do, I wake up and I start searching for heroin or Oxycontin. That's the first thing I have to do. Once I can find that and locate that, then I got to get the money. Mind you, I have school going on at the same time. I have a girlfriend I'm trying to keep up with, and I have, things going on, with my friend groups that I'm trying to keep up. I'm trying to keep up appearances. And that just got to be a nightmare trying to keep all that up. So, track down the drugs. Well, now I got to get money. How do I do that? Well, I can extort my mom, which I did very frequently. I played on her heartstrings and guilt tripped her. I tricked her into thinking my car was crashed probably 20 times. I would send her fake invoices. I got involved in counterfeiting money in Baton Rouge. I got involved in robbing drug dealers and robbing my friends, pawning whatever I can get my hands on. I broke into a couple houses doing some B&E stuff. I just had to get money basically every single day, because here's the thing with opiates. If you don't get it, it is the worst feeling in the world. Imagine just being stuck in one position, seeing exactly what you want, knowing there's a way to get it, but not being able to move towards that goal. Where I hit my lowest was, I just remember being in the back of my car, parked on like I-10 and like Washington or something like that in Houston at a gas station, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I'm gonna end up living in my car on the streets for the rest of my life. I don't want to do that. And then I started going, who's got a gun? You know, who can I get this gun from to kill myself? Or I'm gonna get so much dope tomorrow that I'm gonna end my life. And I thought about my mom, and I thought about my brother, and I didn't care. Like it almost hurt knowing that I didn't care, but I thought that they would be much better off without me. I thought that everyone would be much better off without me, because I was just a burden. I was just a problem, and I was just so hopeless that, and in so much pain, like from all the trauma and death and things I'd done to people and the shame and the guilt. Like, it just seemed like the simplest way out was to just end it. By the time I was 24, I'd been to 4 treatments. I'd tried to detox myself over 100 times. I'd tried to quit, and I really wanted to quit before, but I just couldn't. I'd get sober for a couple days, and then I'd relapse, or I'd sneak drugs into rehab. And when I was living in my car and contemplating suicide every day and living to get high and just going through the chore of addiction, I don't think I ever really made the conscious decision to get better. At least not while I was using. I called my mom one day, and if I remember this correctly, I needed to get, there's a drug out there called Suboxone that costs about 20 bucks per pill. And you take it to keep the withdrawal symptoms from so you don't get sick. And so I called my mom and I go, hey mom, I need 20 bucks. I'm really trying to stop. I just need to keep the withdrawal symptoms away. And she'd heard this song and dance before. We'd done it 100 times. And she said, I don't have any money for you. I haven't had any money for you forever. If you come on my property, I'll call the police. Because the last time I'd been there, I'd assaulted my brother and the police had come. And another time I'd been over there, I ran her over with a car trying to get her purse, and she said, I don't have any money for you, but I got a bed for you in rehab again if you want to go. And honestly, it was cold in Houston. It was November. Thanksgiving had just passed, and I'd missed it again, or I wasn't invited. And so I said, you know what? I need a place to sleep. I will go to treatment if you want me to go to treatment. So I had no intention of getting sober. I really just pictured it as like a resting stop before I got really, messed up and then killed myself. So I went off to treatment, and I didn't sleep for 5 days. For whatever reason, I didn't get really many detox medications. I popped hot for everything on the drug test, pretty much, except for PCP. I'm really proud of that. I had this moment in detox on the 5th day. I finally passed out, and then I woke up, and a part of opiate detox, and I was detoxing from Xanax and alcohol as well, is you can't really, you have to spend a lot of time in the bathroom. It's not a comfortable situation, but after one of these episodes in the bathroom, diarrhea, throw up, I looked in the mirror and I had that kind of cinematic movie moment where I went, what have you become? And I started crying, and I broke down, and I realized that there was something in me worth saving, and that I had to do something about it. Like I had to at least give it a shot. And I went, you know what? 2013 comes around, it's my birthday, I'll be 25. If I don't make it, if this doesn't work, I'm done. And I talked about it with the counselor in the treatment, and he said, you know what? For your situation, suicide seems like an okay option. And I was kind of floored at that. Counselors aren't supposed to tell you that. But he took a risk and he told me that, and he goes, but if you go all out, you don't have to do that. He goes, you can be like me, you don't have to be a statistic, you don't have to make your mom cry anymore. And that's when I went, you know what, okay, let's let's do it. Let's go all out. And at least at the very end of the day, I can go, I went all out, it didn't work, and give you everyone the finger and just end everything. And so I kind of started from a spiteful position, from a, I'll prove you guys wrong, that your method doesn't work, and that I am hopeless. And that gave me enough motivation to start. I had like 26 teeth that were rotting out of my head. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't bathe every single day. My counselor was like, okay, little stuff, you need to be on time. Go to every single group. You're not allowed to flirt with the girls, don't flirt with the girls. You know, don't break the rules. You know, really, really simple kindergarten stuff. And he told me, you know, and mind you, I was like, I'm gonna go all out. So he kind of had me there. So I did, that's kind of what I learned. And I think what really saved me in the long run was not, well, that stuff was important, but when it got time for me to leave, they suggested I go to a sober living house. And I kind of fought that. I wanted to go back to Houston, and my mom did this tricky little thing where she goes, you can come back to Houston, but your car, I hid it somewhere. It's hidden in the streets of Houston. You can have the keys, but, you know. And so I went, all right, I'll move to Austin. What's the worst thing that's going to happen here? You know, if I can move back if I need to, I guess. I'll find a way. So I moved into the sober living house, and I moved into a house that there were 15 guys, and they saved my life because they'd been in treatment for like 4 or 5 months, and they'd all gone through this transformative process and learned how to view life differently and present things differently and talk differently and walk differently, and they seemed to be able to conquer their fears and let go of their trauma and let go of their resentment. And I was like, I want that. Like, I want what you have, but I don't know how to get there. And so those guys taught me what to do. They helped me let go of, and some other mentors, they taught me some tools that allowed me to let go of all that death, all that grief. I was holding on to so much resentment for my dad's death and for how people treated me and how girls treated me. You know, I held on to a lot of pain and shame from some of the things and the criminality I'd been involved in. I held on to so much weight, and so they taught me how to take that off my back and stop carrying that burden around. And then they taught me, you know, how to, you know, make that stuff right by going and talking to the people that I harmed directly. You know, even though I didn't want to, and I didn't want to admit my wrongdoing, but they showed me this transformative, you know, process that, you know, revolutionized how I looked at everything and how I handle every situation. And, you know, it hasn't really steered me wrong for the past 9 years. It's all, that process has worked every single time, even, you know, in spite of me. And I'm forever grateful for that. They taught me how to do life again, you know, and it unlocked a part of me that I'd buried long ago, or, you know, dumped too much heroin on, I guess. You know, I saw men's lives change in that facility, in that program, and that ignited, I guess, something in me, and I found it fascinating how people can change and the capacity to change, and just how much people could overcome, and how you could shift from in one day even and change your whole life. You know, that set me on a career path. I got back involved in school. I'd failed out of school, and instead of going back for chemistry to be a pharmacologist, I went back and was like, I'm going to get my psychology degree, and I want to help people. I want to, you know, either teach or find new ways to help people, or be a therapist. So, you know, I started rebuilding my life. I recently graduated, and I'll be going to graduate school soon. I'm going to try and get my doctorate. I realized that, you know, that getting sober was much more than just getting sober. It was about not only looking at life differently, but changing your body and changing your habits. The fitness, it made, you know, looking better makes you feel good about yourself. It disciplines you in a way that you did not have when you were just living to get high and drink. I feel good about myself. I feel good about the way that I look. And it definitely helps in the long term with staying alive for as long as possible. I don't want to die anymore like I did in my addiction, so I'm going to take care of myself for as long as I can. Most of my friends from the past are either dead or sober now, and so there's like 5 of us that are sober, which is a wholesale miracle as far as I'm concerned. I've gotten to be involved in watching both my brothers get sober. I got to do an intervention on one of them. They were the best men at my wedding. I got married to a great and beautiful girl who understands, you know, what I have to do in order to stay sober. She supports me in everything that I do. And 9 years ago, no one would talk to me. You know, life is pretty good, and you know, as much as I take it for granted, you know, talking about it with other alcoholics and addicts and meeting with them to see where they're at really puts things into perspective sometimes. And I don't know, I'm deeply humbled by my experience, and I try and learn from it every single day. And as a result of, I guess, that experience, I'm able to propel myself further and further away from it. So, yeah, life is good.